What?
You want to talk about them? You want to talk about the people here?
Sure. We've got extra people. Supplemental
the table is
carbonization.
sideways. You are so far away that I feel like we're in that can you pass the salt?
It's got to be Grey Poupon.
Great. Anyway, welcome to the Carmudgeon Show. I am Jason Cammisa.
I'm Derek Tam-Scott.
You are?
Daniel Davey.
And you are?
Tam-Scott.
God, this is going to get confusing.
Wow. How about that?
We have special guests here today from Longbow, which is a new electric sports car manufacturer, and we're going to torment the shit out of them for ruining the sports car world. And Derek is smiling already.
I'm readying myself.
Ready for a good fight. That should have a V12 in it with a 6-speed goddamn manual steering and all that, or not.
All right. All that and more ahead.
Not? Oh, not. God, they're cheeky. They're British. So they have a sense of humor. That one called me a C word earlier. But he said it as a compliment.
Christian?
No.
I don't know if I'm a good judge of character or not, Jason. We'll find out.
We're going to find out. We'll have a great conversation about a really interesting car company with two actual car people.
And us.
Yeah. Derek is going to clap. And I think what we should do, and to honor our guests, is you will clap and then you will clap.
A Mexican clap wave.
Is that a Mexican?
That is, right?
Mexican
wave.
It's a Mexican
We just
wave.
call it the wave.
Yeah, we just call it the wave.
We must be close enough to Mexico.
You can't say the word Mexican.
Already.
Too close to
we call it a Mexican wave. I think there's something in like World Cup at some point.
You say
where
like quesadilla and do that or something. Anyway, we'll all make fun of Derek because we're the C word here by clapping after him to show him how it's done.
Okay,
ready?
Hey, Jason's was the best. Now the jingle.
Okay. Very formal intro, right?
Good. And now I'm a racist.
Who are these people? What are they doing?
We could have them tell us.
Can you just do that? Can we just ask them?
Yeah.
Do you speak English?
It actually came from our country.
Yeah.
What country is that?
England.
I've never heard of it.
Struggling to speak American, actually, whilst we've been here recently. So,
Can you say the word Carmudgeon?
We can say it. We just have to change our intonation and ask a question at the end of every sentence, and then it's American.
Like
Carmudgeon.
Carmudgeon.
Period. So you're thinking of like the sort of
California,
accent. Like oh my god, like
we're in California, right?
Yeah, not that part of California.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah,
Northern California has it. Does it a little bit too.
You're a native.
Yes.
Can you make a statement without doing the like, oh my God, like, let's go to the movie?
I mean, I don't speak in a normal fashion for someone from this area or of my demographic,
century.
This generation. Yeah, it's true.
That's why we understand you, though. Everyone else is really difficult.
Is
really?
it?
No.
Okay.
Oh, they're having us on.
So as you guys can see, this is going to be a very professional podcast, but in all seriousness, you guys do have real jobs, and you have a product.
We did have real jobs until we started on
You're
this journey.
the co-CEOs. You can't fire yourselves. Tell the board to fuck off. That's just that's what you do, right? You tell the board to fuck off and let you do
We're
your
the
job.
board as well.
Oh.
Because we're co-founders, so
you can do whatever you want.
kind of stack in our favor.
All right,
that's whatever they want.
That's whatever they want. Okay, so who are you? How did you? I know this because I've done my homework, but they don't know this. So introduce yourself. Who are you, and how did you get here? And I don't mean by that like that terrible Uber driver that tried to kill you. Shut up now. I made him laugh. Here, I'm
That's because he did have a terrible Uber driver.
Did he really?
No,
All
it was great.
Uber
Actually,
drivers
it was
are
great.
terrible.
We talked about politics.
No.
Yeah. But I'm British, so it wasn't like I wasn't coming from any angle.
Yes, you didn't have
What
a
angle
vested
was the
interest.
driver coming? The Uber driver coming?
He was neutral. We were like neutral aligned.
So
And
what
he
did you
wasn't
talk
American.
about?
He wasn't American.
Yeah, Americans are never neutral. It's
No,
like,
he's American, but he's Filipino original. So we talked about poverty and why it's actually a problem. But enough of that. No politics.
okay.
I'm Daniel Davey. I'm not a political commentator. I'm
you sound like one.
The co-CEO of Longbow Motor Car Company. How did we get here? We didn't drive in that because it's raining today, and
You forgot to put a roof on it.
We came to California avoiding the rain, but we brought it with us. But no, we're here showing the car, meeting people, and unveiling it to the California public for the first time. So it's really exciting. Yeah.
Okay.
Mark Tam-Scott. Not sure how far away.
Oh,
maybe
yeah.
our families kind of. Maybe it was separated by a hyphen at least.
Yes.
For us, but-
Tam-Scott versus
yeah.
Tam-Scott.
Letter off.
One letter and
That
one
never
hyphen
happens
off.
to me.
Yeah.
Can you hyphenate your name just to fuck with him from now on?
What do you know where yours came from?
Well, it's it's Tam and Scott, which are separate from my mother and father, so probably a different origin than yours.
Yeah, this comes back from like Devon and Cornwall, old England, and it means like a small cottage.
Oh, yes.
of the taps.
I guess I should probably adopt a similar origin story.
There you go.
Because that's much more compelling.
Can appropriate some heritage from,
perfect.
From South England.
Is this a historical podcast?
Yes, if
I'm on here.
Well, it will be later when we
historical
start talking
artifact.
about Longbow and the whole.
Well, okay. So your company's called Longbow.
Yeah.
Which I thought was a reference to the elongated hood and/or your genitalia. But
It's been a nickname in the past. Perhaps.
It'd be extra Longbow then, wouldn't it?
extra Longbow. Derek is mortified. The audience has now tuned out and reported us as inappropriate to YouTube. So tell us about the name Longbow.
So Longbow, finding a name is super hard, right? A name that you can use, that you can trademark, that
It's Googleable.
It's Googleable. You don't have to tell people how to spell it.
It has a URL that's available.
Has URL that's available, and then also ties into what you're doing, ties into your history. So we're British, as you can tell by our accents and terrible humour. Our company's British, designed, engineered, manufactured in the UK. Our car, lightweight sports car, is the proud history of British motoring. But then really it's actually, so a longbow's a beautifully crafted, if you don't know what longbow is, so we, in the 1500s, 1400s, we being England, United Kingdom, pioneered using very long bows that had like the highest pound per square inch. So you could fire arrows like 300 meters and shoot through armor. And that was super well crafted. But to become a longbowman, you have to start at the age of 6 training that force. So a longbow is nothing without the archer is nothing without the longbow, and it's the same thing for us. So a beautiful crafted piece of technology that is handcrafted, but it's nothing without a driver and the skill of the driver. So it's that kind of symbiosis of man and machine almost. That's where longbow comes from.
You are listening to the History Channel.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to call it the marketing bullshit channel, actually, because that does sound like marketing bullshit, but it's actually quite good.
It's true. Yeah, no,
it's good.
And
I like it.
we came up with it, right? We sat over many wines trying to think through names and Googling everything, checking GoDaddy and what feels right. And then we just clicked, right?
There's the whole point of it's the car and the driver. And I think when you start looking at a lot of other cars at the moment, it's not necessarily that feeling of how do those two things to connect. It's actually how do you disconnect a lot of those things a lot of the time with all the screens and everything else. So we're really trying to bring it back to the driver and the tool itself. And then Boudica, who sits on the front of the car, the lady holding the bow. The longbow fought the French. Boudica, she fought back the Romans. So there's a lot of kind of passion, power, and fighting against what's happening at the time. Yeah, exactly.
David and Goliath.
So she pulled everyone together that after her husband, the king, was killed to fight back the Romans.
Okay, so your product does that. Give us maybe the highlights that will capture the attention of a person who might be disinclined to believe anything new could be cool.
That's projection, by the way. That's Derek speaking for himself.
Well,
speaking on behalf of a friend,
right? If you're trying to take on the incumbent philosophy of building cars with a different place, you're coming from an altogether different place. Tell us what about your car shows that.
Actually, we just lean into the past, right? So where have cars come from? Mm-hmm. So before everyone put loads of power and marketing bullshit into cars, you didn't have that power to weight ratio. So you needed to have a lightweight car because if it was heavy, it couldn't go anywhere. Right. So I think that increase in democratization and energy density has meant that people have become lazy with weight.
Yes.
Right. So we just went back to that. So actually, first principles, if you want something to be better on the road, remove the weight. We don't have 2 tons trying to get out the corner when we're trying to go into the corner. Mm-hmm. So we didn't have to do anything other than look at what have been the best selling and the most successful and the most iconic British cars, typically are lightweight sports cars. So it's just leaning into that, really.
Okay. So what does it weigh?
This is under 900 kilograms, which is 1,973
pounds.
73 pounds. There you go.
1873.
Yeah.
So that is lighter than any car on sale in America today.
That's the same number of cubic centimeters as a Series 1 Lotus Esprit also, if you were curious, which no one probably was.
Okay. When I warned you about him being an encyclopedia.
In the K-series.
Yeah, he just booted up.
That's amazing.
So if that's useful to you, if not, please file it away in what we call the round file, which is the rubbish
Trash bin. Yeah.
So it weighs under 2,000 pounds. It is an EV, making how many horsepower?
So we haven't announced horsepower,
Okay.
but let's say the horsepower we have in there is way
Sufficient.
in excess. It's adequate.
Adequate.
It's more than
To quote
adequate.
Rolls Royce.
More than adequate to give the figures we've said, which is 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds and a top speed of 125 miles per hour.
Okay. All right. So it is philosophically an old-fashioned British sports car brought into the modern age via electrification.
Because of electrification almost.
Yeah.
Right? So what we're trying to make is the best handling, lightweight British sports car today, not despite it being electric, but actually because it is. And I think when we talk about electrification a lot, it's that whole piece of, you think electrification, you think heavy, first of all, you think the batteries all being where they are, and then you think big screens, automation, and that's absolutely not what this car is all about, because the drivetrain, electric drivetrain, doesn't actually mean any of those other things. So we're just trying to separate that and show people that you can have a lightweight sports car that happens to be electric.
So you said, so for the audience, I went to a presentation that you guys gave last night on this car to prospective buyers. I snuck in and they didn't kick me out until afterwards. But you said something that was really, that I had not heard before, which was that the car industry has bundled together electrification with screens and autonomous driving aids, and they don't need to be. And that's a really, really good point. There's no reason why any of those things need to be bundled together. They are, just because I think they're happening at the same time, right? We have, by happenstance, we have touchscreens at the same time as we have EVs, at the same time as we have ADAS and all sort of self-driving stuff. But I think it's a brilliant observation to say, let's decouple those and go back to the experience of the car. My question is, can an EV, and I think the audience will ask this, can an EV give you the same driving pleasure as a combustion car through lightweight and handling in the way that a combustion engine could? We've experienced a couple actually interesting cars. One, though, that stands out is the Sacrilege Motors 911. So it was an old Porsche 911 converted to EV. Right. And they aptly named the company Sacrilege Motors, knowing that people were going to shit all over it. But it was quite good. It was I shouldn't say that. It was a great experience, despite it being electric, right? You're missing out on some things, but you're gaining others. And so, but I think to the audience, that's a really important distinction to make. Just because it's electric doesn't mean it can't be light and it can't be analog.
It's not going to be the same, right? I think if anyone comes on and says, hey, we're going to build an electric car that's exactly the same as an internal combustion engine, it's just not the case. But it also doesn't need to be, right? What you need to do, though, is add something extra. When you're taking away, that's the sound, the vibration, these other things, you need to still add something in. So we're always talking about like theatre, we call it. We have to add theatres. We have to work even harder to add something more in so that you are really experiencing driving. I mean, it helps. The first car doesn't have a windscreen, right? You're eating bugs and enjoying what's going on. But
Form of theatre.
We introduced that theatre.
When you talk about theatre, what sort of arsenal of tools do you actually have for that? Is it acoustic?
I think there's, the thing about unbundling is we're actually not necessarily unbundling, because when you think of EVs, pretty much all EVs are sedans, crossover SUVs, or hypercars. That's it. So no one's built an electric sports car. Tesla did with the Roadster. No one's done it since. So we have a shot almost at what does an electric sports car drive like? No one has a clue. No one's done it. So we have a chance almost from the beginning to define what that is. Right? Like when they define, okay, this is how gear shift works, and here's brake, clutch, and we have the same idea to almost set the standard of what electric sports car should drive like. And that's not, it shouldn't have some fake gear shifting in it, and it shouldn't have introduced noise like the sound of a UFO flying around. Like all those things are not authentic.
Synthetic, yes.
Yeah.
And you guys both worked on the Tesla Roadster project. We didn't get back into that. So you guys were at Tesla, really?
Yeah, I was at Tesla 2010. So that was kind of midway through the Roadster. Spent time here in Mountain View, not sleeping in the bull ring. Then worked in UK and Germany for it. Then left, worked in a few other companies, came back to Tesla for Model 3, and then worked at Lucid. So launching the European Middle East markets for Lucid as well. So we've come from actually, and that's the thing. That's almost kind of the genesis. The coolest time at Tesla, and my favorite product was the Roadster. Startup, you know, David versus Goliath. You mentioned earlier. No one knew what you were doing, and you had to figure it out, and that was cool. You know, there was no blueprint, and and that product was cool. You know, it turned heads, it was transformational, and that was despite the fact it had a 65-45 weight distribution.
It wasn't exactly the same handler as the Elise. But it traded stuff. First of all, what I loved about the Roadster, and I did a video on it probably 2 years ago now, and it was great to revisit it. So I drove them back in the day. 2009 was my first Roadster loan. Cool. And I set this loan up thinking that I was going to hate the car and that I was going to throw this stupid startup called Tesla under the bus. You know, I think I've said this before on the podcast, and I made it about 100 feet and changed my mind. I mean, and you know, I thought they've ruined an Elise and they've taken everything good about it, and I just shut up because it was different. It wasn't better or worse; it was just different. But it was actually a visceral experience. And that engine, you could on that car, you could really hear the motor, you could hear the gear train, and that is something sadly very absent from most EVs to this day. But it did give you quite. I mean, go take one on a back road, and so what's your connection with the Elise? You had a collection.
I've replaced untold head gaskets on the K series on S1s back in the day. So I used to kind of build, design, and race Lotuses. That was the first kind of cars I started pulling apart. And then after that, I was kind of, this is cool, but you know, what more, what next? And then a friend of mine had a Roadster, and he turned up in it, said, "Sit in this." I'm like, "You're right, thanks."
Yeah, but it doesn't have a K. It doesn't have a K series head gasket problem.
Exactly. I'm good.
Not interested.
No problem. Yeah. And then I did sit in it, and sure, it felt a little bit like Usain Bolt with a backpack full of bricks. The way it kind of did, but it just changed my mind. Like, if this is where we are today, I've got to be involved in this from that moment on. And since then we've been waiting for the next Roadster. Yeah. Hasn't happened. So
it's happened. On, Elon. They're taking money for it for years now. It's any minute now. It's going to pop right out.
That's it. We're kind of having a little competition with Elon, if he's listening, right?
Oh, he's actually in that room right there. He's hiding in the closet.
That's why there's a fifth chair.
Yeah. Oops, caught me.
Our Roadster before.
So your Roadster will beat Tesla's Roadster to market.
Why not?
When is this on sale?
We're starting deliveries of this end of this year, early next year, and then
is that Elon time? Meaning that'll be 2037, or
we're British and we're very conservative. So
you're not Swiss. I mean, if you're Swiss, I'd actually believe you.
I'm half German.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so half on time.
So I'm half on time. Yeah. So
and part of the car will be done by the end of the year.
Exactly. The left-hand side, and then Roadster's a year later. So we're back to backing products into the market. So yeah.
Okay, so this car is called
the Speedster.
The Speedster. So it's a GT3 SC to reference last week.
Oh yes, it's a GT3 convertible.
Yes.
Okay, convertible. Like a Porsche Speedster. Okay, so this one's the Speedster. The Roadster has something more than this car, presumably, or different.
A roof. Yeah, windscreen. It turns out when you're selling sports cars in England and everywhere other than California, not today, a roof is important to move volume.
Yeah, makes sense. So this. I can't look at this thing without thinking of the SP1 and 2, which is a compliment of the highest order for me, in my opinion. But
thank you.
It's so it's got no windscreen. So you will have one with a windscreen and a sort of emergency type roof or something like that.
Something cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we wouldn't follow the pack.
Right.
I think having the wind in your hair is important, but also if you don't connect your front and rear subframe, you miss a whole opportunity on torsional stiffness.
Right.
How do you do both of those things is kind of the problem you need to solve. Yeah.
We were at Cars and Coffee the other day, and someone said to us, Monza, Miata, the Monza Miata.
Oh, yeah.
That seems to be...
Yeah.
Monza Miata.
Yeah, it's dimensionally closer to the Miata, but sort of philosophically and like in terms of the language, I think definitely I see the Monza there. So,
how big is it, actually? No jokes.
Well, the
extra
Longbow or the 1.83 by 4.2. And I have no idea what that means in feet or inches.
He's probably speaking metric.
4.2.
If I multiply it by some number that makes no sense.
420 times 2.54. Divided by 2.54 is the length of it. So
what is it? What car is it comparable to? Because I think oftentimes if you give a dimension in inches, it's not super useful either.
I think it's width of a 911 and a little bit shorter.
Okay.
Like when we were looking at cars that modern day cars that we should be kind of considering that are going to be competitor set, Alpine, the A110 kind of came up really, really high on that list.
which it's never got in the US, annoyingly.
Really?
No. We had one in the studio. I did one, but it was
It's a temporary import. Renault has not been present in the United States since probably 1991 or something like that.
It's a shame.
I think you could
cars.
call its presence in the late 80s as tenuous at best. We had Le Car.
It was available.
Yeah.
We had the Renault 5.
And then
and we had the Alliance.
The Le Car.
They called it Le Car here, yes. Instead of the Renault 5, it was called the Le Car
Can you
here.
imagine how expensive that marketing campaign really cost to get rid of that terrible name?
And people would call it the Le Car, which is like the Ferrari, La Ferrari. Ferrari, La Ferrari.
Ferrari ripped off its name from the Renault Le Car. And then there was the Renault Alliance, which was anything but. It was.
And the Fuego was available here.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
So
It was fire.
yes, it was fired. Okay, conventionally, it looks smaller than a 911. I'm surprised to hear that it's as big because it really does look very compact. And
I mean, it's all hood. And so it's a very, very long bow.
and it weighs a half of a 911 also, it should be noted. Well, if it's like a Carrera 4 Cabriolet, it probably weighs half of a Carrera 4
with two people
Cabriolet.
in it. And trunk full of stuff. So what size of a battery is in there?
50 kilowatt hours. Yeah, so
50.
we haven't gone for a large battery. So for us, again, lightweighting is important, but if it's lighter, you need less battery. So from a watt hours per kilometer, you're approaching kind of best in class, as in not electric sports car because there's only one, but you'd be comparable to a giant sedan that's designed around slippiness because weight just helps, you know?
What do you have to be obsessive about drag coefficient? Or do you even care about range on a car like this? I mean, a car like this without a windscreen, I'm guessing long highway slogs down I-5, which you guys just have done, and you know how absolutely miserable it is. And I'm suspecting you won't want to do it in a car without a windshield. But is range, do your customers, I should say, care about range in a car like this?
I think something that certainly inspired what we've done with the design here is this belief when we were growing up. Why is it that it's only really expensive cars, it seems, that have these sort of beautiful curvaceous lines and that you have to spend more money to have something that's beautiful? Why can't something at a lower price also have something that looks like it should be more expensive?
Should we talk about price when you mention price? I think that people probably must be very curious about what it costs.
I was going to say on that spectrum we talked about of Monza and Miata, we're definitely closer to Miata than we are on Monza.
What was the Monza priced at? 1.5 million?
I don't know. They're so expensive now that the idea of what it might have cost when it was new is so immaterial. But okay, so smaller than bigger than a bread box, smaller than a football stadium.
So both beauty and price, those things shouldn't actually really cross over. They shouldn't be
mutually exclusive.
Exactly, right? So we priced this car. It's about 110,000 US for the Speedster, and then the Roadster is around 85,000 US. We want to change how the Earth kind of.
And for
feels about
reference,
sports
a
cars.
911 starts at $120 now. Is that right?
Something like that.
In US, and what is a Boxster? 70 something, maybe.
The
for a
Boxster four-cylinder doesn't
four-cylinder
exist in my mind. So
Yeah.
I have to look that up.
stripper model. Okay.
Strippers exist, but not stripper Porsches. So 85,000, meaning this would be the daily usable version of this car would be considerably less expensive than a 911. And in a world where the average, don't forget, transaction price for a car is $50K in the US, not a whole lot more. Okay, so you start with roughly 50 kilowatt hour battery. It's rear drive, one motor, single speed transmission, I'm guessing. And you guys went into some detail on how compact the motor was. Right? So it's an in-house developed motor.
So as it all comes together, so the complete motor as a package is ours, but the ingredients are not. So we take an off-the-shelf, mass-produced 10,000, 20,000 a year motor company. We then have a McLaren applied or motion applied inverter, silicon carbide inverter, and then a transmission from a supplier we probably won't name. but they're Formula One derivative. And then the whole thing together is then the Longbow hyperdrive. But we can do that now. We don't need to develop it because it's all off the shelf.
And what's really important, that whole part, is that we can have the latest 800 volt system in this car, doing what it needs to do, providing all that power and torque. And we don't have to invest in a huge factory to go and build that motor ourselves. And we can go and get the components that have done 1 million miles worth of testing with Mercedes, with BMW, these other partners. And we bring those components together to build a really reliable car built on the shoulders of others. And that's, I think, how we can be successful and move so quickly, because we don't have to develop all of those components that are already out there and doing a great job.
It's like Rover K Series.
It all comes back to that little old Lotus.
Well, no, in terms of taking an off-the-shelf component that has been proven or disproven, I guess, has been mass-produced, shall we say.
You mean throwing that in the Elise? Is that?
Yeah, I mean, just like if you're going to make a small, like, what is the formula that is always used by low-volume British sports car manufacturers? It would be, you would look at like Lotus using components from Toyota and Rover Group, and, if you were looking at TVR, then it's going to be also from the Rover Group in the form of the V8s that they would use until they started doing their own motors, which was really a cul-de-sac that I don't think anybody should go down again.
For the record, we never got the K Series. And for the record, when we're talking about K Series, we're not talking about Honda K Series.
Yes.
So in the US, we hear K Series and we think Honda K Series, which are probably the best four-cylinders ever made. Yeah. The Rover K Series was probably not the best four-cylinder ever made.
But interestingly, back in the UK, certainly, we swap out the Honda K20A with the K Series and a lot of their Lotuses.
Hold on, you go in which direction?
Popular.
You add the Honda motor, or you remove the Honda?
No, we put the K28 back into the Elise S1, S2s that had the K Series.
Okay. Yeah, so you put the Honda engine in where...
Yeah.
Yes, because I was going to say, you'd have to be... I know Brits are masochists, stereotypically, but you'd have to be a special kind of breed of fucked up to take a Rover K and put it where a Honda K was.
Yeah.
Okay.
But Caterham as well, right? So think Caterham have a Ford Ecotec, right?
Yeah, and they were using Lotus Ford motors from the outset also, and
so
EAs.
It's a BMW with Morgan now, right?
Yeah.
So it makes so much sense because a car is more than a powertrain. Yeah. Mm-hmm. There's a lot, and also a powertrain off the shelf isn't necessarily how it's going to then manifest in the car that you build, because there's so much more than just the
a lot of judgment calls that you make to determine the character.
Exactly, yeah.
Certainly also, one of the defining one of the clearest defining characteristics of a combustion car is the engine. That's not really the case with EVs. So you can pull from suppliers, and I doubt very much most of us could tell the difference between a Lucid powertrain and a Tesla powertrain and a Rivian powertrain, just acoustically or response, and it's all probably programmed in anyway. So if you're not relying on the engine to give the car its personality, then why not get supplier stuff?
We're chefs, right? So we're taking in all those different ingredients, and you can make something really delicious or not at all. Mm-hmm. And then it's that spice that you put into it and the flavoring that we go, and that's really what the Longbow part of it does. We are there adding what we think our customers and drivers want using those off-the-shelf components.
Do you plural, have any answer to this question, which I think is probably on the mind of a lot of car enthusiasts, which is, why has no one built an electric sports car yet? Is it because the market isn't there, or because they can't imagine creating something that would be compelling to sports car buyers, or why hasn't this happened yet? Because the Roadster effectively was the first and so far last car that really could be categorized as a sports car that's an EV, and obviously it's pervaded a bunch of other form factors or types of cars. What are your thoughts on why that hasn't happened yet?
I think so. The only reason why there are so many electric vehicles on the road at the moment is because Tesla came along and punched everyone in the nose, right? With the Model 3, with the Model S. If people, a traditional car company is not going to change if what's working. They're not there to like innovate and drive things forward.
Yes,
right?
I mean, you would recount Porsche's 2012 conversations where they said this is absolutely insane that someone would make an electric car. These people are fools, and why would they do this?
Actually, by the time this episode airs, I did a Revelations episode on Model S in here, and it will be a nightmare for me because of all of the Tesla hate. But it was a story that needed to be told because I was there at the time when the car companies literally said this will never work. Laughed at it for years and years at the build quality, the panel gaps, and then ultimately have adopted all of Tesla's. Well, they've paid attention to what Tesla's done and tried to emulate parts of it with varying degrees of success.
That's kind of helped us though, because we were dealing with that in those early days as well, of everyone telling you, why on earth are you doing this? This is never going to work. This Tesla, whatever it was, plugging it in on the wall and everything else. So we've gone through that. So it kind of actually fuels us when people say this kind of thing won't work.
So I think there's, you can do it. I mean, but then there's another side that we discovered on this journey. So early on, we went to, even major car companies use engineering service providers.
Yeah.
Right. So they'll go to,
Lotus Engineering, for example.
yeah.
What's the one in the powertrain one in Austria? ALB? Anyway, I thought, okay.
But yeah, and they'll do powertrains, they do the whole thing. Generally, car companies are program managers who run it forward, right? And we went to one of these large engineering services providers, one of the largest in the world, and we said, we'd like to work with you to build this car. And we gave them the specs of a 2008, and this was like 2020 when we started on this journey. Gave them the specs of a 2008 Tesla Roadster. We didn't tell them it was the specs of a 2008 Tesla Roadster, and they were like, "You can't build this car." We're like,
"Can't be done."
Can't be done.
Were they German? Was it a German company? Because it's just this. This is not possible.
A bit like Daniel. They're part ownership, part.
Because the German national anthem is "This is not possible."
Yeah, and we were like, these are the specs of a 2008 Tesla Roadster. Like, we know, like, it has legitimately been done 15 years ago before the supply chain. And what they're saying is they don't know how to do it because they've never done it, because no one's asked them.
Right.
And they were like, but we can figure it out for $20 million. And we were like, no, we'll probably go somewhere else. And then we started working from the other way up. So 90% of this car is not an electric car. So really, those companies are not the best sports car manufacturers. In the UK, there's great engineering service providers for low volume, right? On programs we have to make money. And that's where we work with them. So let's start with the premise it's a sports car, UK supply chain. We don't have a $50 million budget for the first car to blow on you exploring how to build a sports car. Mm-hmm. How would you then make this sympathetic to an electric vehicle platform? It turns out it's just a sports car with a slightly different powertrain.
Mm-hmm. And it's probably easier because the powertrain is smaller and lighter, and you can sort of play some magic in terms of where it goes, and you get some benefit from that lower center of gravity and all that.
That's why I said we're building the best sports car, not despite it being electric, but because it is, because you can place all the batteries. So for us, again, it's not, we talked about it last night, having the batteries that all sit in the skateboard format, which is what most of the cars on the road are. That's great. It works for those vehicles, but for a sports car, we need a different weight distribution. So we can put them exactly where we want them. And that motor, it's so small, along with the rest of the drivetrain, it kind of just sits between the rear axle. It's about 70 to 90 kilos, depending on which configuration we have. We stick it super low, a couple of equal length drive shafts out to the wheels, and then that whole rest of that space behind the car, we call it the penthouse. It's all luggage space. So you can fit a huge amount of practical storage space behind it, again, making it even better because it's electric as a sports car. Mm-hmm. That was a real sales pitch, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. And weight distribution you were aiming for was 55 rear?
Is that what? 55, 45. Yeah.
And we didn't have to, we just went to one of our advisors, Michael van der Sande, who launched Renault Alpine. He was at Aston Martin, but he also he took Jaguar SVO from 100 million to like 2 billion. And we were like, what should the weight distribution be? He was like, 55, 45. That's what we did at Alpine. We're like, great, done. There's our market research done, because that was based off of all of his experience.
I think Ferrari typically quotes 52 or 58, depending if you're in a presentation of a front engine car, they'll say it's 58 front, otherwise they'll say it's 52 rear. But interesting. Okay, and so where are the batteries in this car? They're center tunnel and stacked above that, in between the passengers, behind the passengers.
So again, because we're designing it from the ground up, we can choose what is the best thing to do. And let's look at what's already been done. I think when you look at Rimac, for example, with an Avera, it's probably like the best performing hyper electric car out. And that's in like a T shape. Mm-hmm. So you can stick it along the center for the sort of polar moment of inertia, and then a little bit behind the driver's seat as well, replacing some of that weight that we would have normally had with a larger engine sat behind.
Yeah, and that'll give you that's where like a fuel tank would go in a car traditionally if you want to minimize changes of polar moment of inertia as the fuel level changes.
That's it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right at the CG.
Yeah.
And this car, double wishbone suspension. What's the steering? Is it manual or is it electric?
It's electric rack. I mean, we're coming to the US, so being homologated for what we need to be here and back in Europe.
Do we now require an EPAS in the electric rack in the US?
I think for people to drive, the
buyers.
When you said US, you meant customers, not regulations, or?
And I think we're committed to lightweighting, but you don't want to be so committed to lightweighting that you're, smelling your shit. You're committed to something that actually doesn't. Ultimately, you want to build a great driver's car, and a driver's car needs to be livable. Right. So we could save weight on the seats and give you carbon buckets, but if you drive for 3 miles, you want to end your own life. Right. So it needs to be comfortable. And when you drive it and your wife or a partner drives the car, it needs to drive well. So I think your commitment to lightweighting needs to come so far that you're not actually making a metric that actually holds you back.
So you're making the point that we did though, which is we wanted, let's go manual rack and then hydraulic. How do we do this? But I think that came from our perception of what maybe we've heard and talked about, which is electronic steering racks you don't want, and there's disconnection. But actually, I mean, what we've had on this now, they're really quite good these days. Yeah.
I mean, look, they've gotten there. They started out pretty terrible. We drive a Honda S2000. People are going to get so upset. Honda S2000, for example. Electric steering was terrible and it's gotten wonderful. I mean, modern GT cars, Porsche GT cars, effectively as good as the hydraulic systems were. Plus, on a lightweight car, you don't need a huge motor. And the bigger the motor, the more it dampens what you're feeling. Okay, so electric steering, double wishbone suspension, front to rear, rear drive, a couple hundred horsepower is all you need. Right?
That's all you need.
You said 3.5 seconds to 60 on 2,000 pounds plus a driver is...
You've been doing some maths.
350 horsepower gets you there? 400, somewhere there? Less?
250. And
250.
an EV.
I
think 230, 240 gets you there.
Wow. Have you, I asked before, but then I interrupted you. Have you spent a lot of time wind tunneling? Is CD really, really low on this car, or does it not really matter?
It's part of the reason we built this the way we built it, right? So we built this in 6 months, which is the fastest anyone's built a car that drives from a clean sheet.
So this is a functional, is it a prototype or a proof of concept or a pre-production pilot, or how would you characterize the status of this?
So normally a car company, when they do the first car, the alpha, they'd go to a third party and say, here's $1.5 million, go make us something that looks like this. And that company would lay down like a steel ladder frame and then they build a model on top. That has no carryover into your engineering program. So that's just to show a thing and get loads of ticks in the box, and they'll spend 30 grand on paint so it looks lovely on a concourse. That's not what we've done. So actually this is none of the things you said, but I would say it's not an alpha, it's closer to a beta, but it's a validated engineering vehicle that drives. And actually the reason, it's a really long answer to your question about aerodynamics, but we 3D printed the exterior. First time it's been done on a car. So the full exterior, this is 3D printed because it's quicker, it's cheaper, we didn't need to tool it. And there's some fettling you can do to get it right. But that allowed us very quickly to run physical aero testing. Normally in a vehicle program, that would come 2 years later. We can do that really early on and get some results. There's CAE or computer testing you can do as well that we've done to fettle it. But this addresses one of your earlier questions. We're not optimizing the car for maximum air efficiency, right? Because then you've got a pebble.
Yeah.
Right. Actually, beauty is important for us. So stability is important, but we're only going up to 125 miles an hour top speed. But stability is important, then beauty. So we'd rather a bite your knuckle, beautiful car, but you maybe have a 275 range versus a 290 range than a car that's, we've optimized every aerodynamics and you've aerodynamics out the character and the beauty of the car.
Appeal of the car in the first place, right?
When we're speaking to our aerodynamics team, the question always is, whatever change you make, if that car, once you've parked up and you're walking home, you don't want to take one more look back at it, and you've made that change for an aero reason, you've done it wrong. Beauty has to come first with something like this.
Yeah, so that's the North Star. That's the philosophy.
That's the focus that's missing from every jelly bean or pebble, as you call it, on the road. Right? It's always been designed by committee and has to do everything for everyone. But a low volume car, you can get away with it and say, this is the compromise. If you don't like it, go buy yourself a jelly bean.
But that's also because Rory Sullivan talks about this, which is so much money has been focused on, like when you look at range anxiety, so much money and effort is focused on the range component of it, and none of it on the anxiety component. Right? So it's very simple. This car doesn't have a roof. If you want to drive 500 miles, you need to stop once for 45 minutes. That's it. Right? And if you want to drive 750 miles, you need to stop twice for 45 minutes on journey.
Buy a different car.
But buy a different car, or
Buy a
enjoy
car
it,
to tow it.
or stop for 2 hours and enjoy the break. Right, it is very livable with that because it's a 100 kilowatt charger. You can charge it in 45 minutes from empty, and that's more than anyone needs, really.
That's the big discussion that sort of non-EV fans have all the time is range. Where am I going to charge it? How am I going to do it? The truth of the matter is, if you look at even Americans who drive a huge amount compared to Europeans, a 200-mile EV is actually all they really need, except for that one time a year that they go on some road trip. But a car like this, you're not concerned with that anyway, right?
I mean, you drove a Roadster in 2009. What was the charging infrastructure like?
There was none. I mean, the best part of this was I was the first ever loan of any Tesla to any media. And so I showed up at the factory and had a whole presentation.
Creek.
Deer Creek and Palo Alto. Had hung out with Zach Edson, if you know Zach, tall guy. And we were discussing like the engineering behind it. And I thought, this is fucking, science experiment. Where am I going to charge the thing? And he and I went to Home Depot and bought an outlet and some wire, and we made a charging cord from a picture I had on my BlackBerry of a 240 outlet that was in my friend's shop. He had a 240, a 50 amp 240 outlet. And so we're like, oh, that's a NEMA 1450, which of course I didn't know what that was at the time. And so we made a charging cable for the car. And I think it was a 5-day loan, and I had made arrangements with my friend to charge it there at night, every night. And we had a backup plan. I came in at midnight every night to check to see if it made sure it didn't flip the circuit breaker. And everywhere I went, I had a Toyota Tundra with a trailer following me because I genuinely thought it was going to die, including going drag racing with the thing. So what I did was every day I did something else car guy related with the car. So one day I took it drag racing, one day I took it shopping, one day I literally bought my house in that car. I took it on a backroads drive, all this other shit. And the drag race day, I had a whole crew of people there with a ATV so that we'd be able to drag it off of the quarter-mile strip to get it onto the trailer to get it home. Wow. Not realizing I was regenning almost everything I had spent on the way, and I got home with like 80% battery. Wow. But until you experience this, you have this truly, I'm an anxious person to begin with, true anxiety about what will I do? I'm on the side of the road. I won't have lights. The thing won't fucking go. It's too heavy to push. It was a non-issue. It was a complete non-issue. I never went close to the end of that tiny little battery. That was what, 45, 50 kilowatt hours?
I think it was 54.
50, that's not true. Something like that. It was nothing. But the reality is, many years later, I bought a Lotus Elise, and I can count on one hand the number of times I did a drive long enough that would have depleted the battery in a Tesla Roadster. It just wasn't a long distance car. And I think, sure, a Lucid Air, right? Spend $100-something thousand on an everyday sedan, and it would be nice to make it from here to Los Angeles without having to stop. Great. That's a very different use case. The problem is that Americans, the car industry in particular, and in general, Americans in particular, want everything in one vehicle. And that just...
I think we also suffer from this philosophy of like, it needs to be a professional grade product that can do all this stuff, even though I'm never going to do that. And that's why people buy Range Rovers or Toyota 4Runners.
That's why they buy F-150s.
Yes.
I mean, that's
when they don't need
a year.
Any of those.
They're never going to use the bed. They're never going to use the 13,000.
That's why people buy GT3s also, but never take them to the track. It's all the same. Right. It's all the same coin, different sides of the same coin, which is this idea that people want to know that they could do something, even if they never are going to do it.
But what that results in is nothing that looks special or feels special or drives special or is indeed special.
The cynic in me is not that people think that, but people are told that. So if I'm trying to drive, and this isn't becoming political, and it may get half ranty, but if I'm a publicly listed car company and I'm trying to increase my net marginal profit each year by a percentage point and sell more car, like you can't sell more cars, right? You can either sell more cars, you can charge more for cars. If you want to charge more for cars, you need to put more into cars. And if you want people to buy those, you need to tell them you need it, right?
Yes. Sure.
Oh, you need to drive across that river. Oh, I need that. Or what happens if you crash into that river? You know, you need a car that can float and drive across the river, right? Oh, well, I didn't know that was a problem. Now I've got more anxiety, so I'm going to buy
the
that
waterproof
thing. And by the
floating
way,
car.
you get that for the low price of $3,000 extra.
Yeah. I'll take it.
But that's why Slate, what Slate's doing is incredible, right? Do you want to pay $1,000 and get into more debt, or do you want to wind your own windows down? I'll wind my own windows down. Thanks. I need the exercise. It's great. I don't know. I think that the industry's done a great job of telling us we need more things that we pay more money for that gets you into more debt. Because
especially in the United States, where they're like, oh, we won't even offer the 4-cylinder version in the United States. And, they've all got to have leather and heated seats and sunroofs and all that stuff. And then Americans look at European specs and, they are all live like peasants there because they haven't got heated steering wheels.
How'd you get up that hill?
I'm sorry. I'm going to stop you right there. Heated steering wheel is required for human survival.
Like heated toilet seats.
Like heated toilet seat. Come on. Am I wrong on this? Once you've experienced a heated steering wheel or a heated toilet seat, you are not going back.
Yes.
Sure. And that's actually a Japanese thing more than an American thing. The toilet seat, anyway.
It's one thing. Can we talk about that?
You've already started now.
It's actually one thing when we talk about speed of lightness and all that. It's actually one thing we'll probably include in the car. Because it doesn't have much weight. It doesn't have much complexity.
Is what, a heated toilet seat?
Yeah, I was going to say, this is new to me now. This is a whole
because
new
heated toilet seats are cheaper and lighter than no. But heated steering wheel, right? It's actually.
I wouldn't consider. Genuinely, I'm sorry to say this. I wouldn't consider a car like this without it. You don't have a roof. You'd like to be able to use it year round. Yeah. If you told me it didn't have heated seats and a heated steering wheel, I would be upset.
Well, it's a more efficient way of conditioning the space or the occupants in an EV anyway.
If you told me it had heated seat belts, like the new S-Class, Mercedes S-Class does, I would say that's a great idea. You haven't heard this?
No.
They're putting the next S-Class as heated. So S-Class already has steering wheel, door panel, and center armrest that are all heated. So everything you touch, the only thing that touches you, pedals, you presumably have shoes on, and that isn't heated, is pedals and the seatbelt. Well, they've solved the seatbelt thing and have now shown that it reduces the load on the cabin heater by X amount of percent, thus giving you X amount more range. And why not?
And then they charge you extra $1,000 for the car.
I don't care what
if
they
you're
do
lucky.
because if I can have a warm hug the entire time, because they're referring to it as a hug, I would do that. But no, and it adds probably no weight. Yeah. What is a heating element add? Nothing. No, I think that's the right choice.
Well, it is ultimately, in your case, probably the most efficient way to get comfortable occupants, certainly more so than providing heated air, because you don't have a heater core from your coolant from an EV, from the internal combustion engine.
We're also British, so we've got leather dueling gloves that you can wear, so your hands are doubly
heated?
warmed.
They should be heated too. I want heated socks. I'm cold all the time, and Derek is also. So
that's true.
This is when you actually speak to the people that are going to use the product. We call ourselves car people. I don't know. I mean, you're going to probably beat us on every fact going, but
no, I'd be interested. Actually, you should offer your resume in the form of cars you particularly love or were inspired by or have owned. But anyway, finish your thought before
then we'll put you to
query you.
Turn up the lights. So, being car guys, rather than maybe in a marketing department or at the C-level having to make these decisions that are led by the marketing department that end up with cars that can float across the Yangtze River for some reason.
You did show a video of that in your presentation yesterday, which was fucking savage of you. I'm sorry, it was great.
It was closed audience. Yeah.
It was great. Oh, no, not anymore. Now it's public. But your point was not every car needs to do everything.
Exactly. And when we're, especially something like this, right, we're building it for really enthusiasts that really want what we're doing. And if we start adding in extra things, it dilutes that experience altogether. We've already mentioned Michael van der Sande, who's on our board, but Mike Fluitt, who is the former CEO of McLaren, launching that. His advice to us was speak to every one of your customers and ask them what they want. And we got a chance to do that. In the first couple of weeks when we had a few hundred reservations come through, we set up those calls. And what we heard actually from customers was they wanted a lot less than we were planning on putting in the car.
Really?
It was like, this is music to our ears.
Thank you.
We thought we'd have to add these heated seatbelt things and everything else. And we were told, no, nobody really wants that. There's only one man in America that's really asking for that. He hasn't got a reservation just yet. As soon as he places a reservation, then maybe we'll start adding. So we managed to actually pare back what we were putting into the car. And that's been kind of really enlightening for us, that people want to experience a lightweight, sports car, and that's what we're going to do.
If there's one thing missing from the automotive industry, and we've talked about this before, it's clarity of purpose, right? Doing everything for everyone results in something that appeals to no one.
Absolutely.
Right? No one loves people. Everyone will buy a Camry. Sorry if you guys can hear the car alarm going off in the background. It's probably, is that one of our cars?
That's not mine.
Oh, maybe. Hopefully it's
my car's too dignified to make all that noise.
No, I have a Lexus LS400 with 2 billion miles on it in the parking lot. Hopefully that doesn't have an alarm. Just got hit. Whatever, not my problem. No, that clarity of purpose is what makes things really, truly appeal to people. All right, what's your car resume, both of you? I like Derek's question.
Oh. I did. So I would like to start with the Lotus at least.
Watch,
it's redemption, obviously.
Yeah, he drives a Camry every day in Europe.
I don't even know if half the listeners are going to even know what one of these is, but a Fiat Panda.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Cool.
Icons.
The original one, the boxy one.
The Giugiaro design one.
And now imagine a Spanish manufacturer that
Seat.
Yeah. Their version of that, which was cheaper, and their styling, which included painting the outside of it in a dark kind of denim blue, calling it the denim edition, and inside all of the seat upholstery was indeed denim, and it was stitched with all the leather patches, and the rear seats, which as a 17-year-old as I was back in the UK at the time, was a hammock. 2 bars, and the cloth just goes between the two. That
like
was my very first car.
Citroën Duchevaux did this. It's like a lawn chair, sort of.
What was the material of the hammock, Mark?
You can guess. It was denim. And the floor was a plastic in denim pattern.
Wow.
And because it was only like a 800cc, I had to kind of try and make something of it. So I went to, I don't know what your version of Halfords is here, but the
AutoZone.
AutoZone,
right?
exactly.
I bought a fire extinguisher. And this is in the era of Fast and the Furious as well, you've got to remember. So I painted it blue and got some bicycle cable out the hose, put it down near the dash and plugged it in, and put a NOS sticker on it. And that was my first car. Then it was Lotus. Then we moved on to some proper things.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, real car guy.
Very cool.
That's what I'm trying to say.
The NOS bottle is hilarious. Okay, I get it.
So it's a Seat Panda, whatever they call the Panda in Spain.
What do you drive now?
I actually don't. Real answer. Yeah, I'm always just traveling around a lot. So,
okay.
Yeah, no cars for
me.
I
don't understand that. No cars. What does that mean?
I wouldn't know. Don't look at me.
Okay. What's your embarrassing?
The motivation is finish this, and then this will be the next car. So I don't get a car until.
So this will be your daily.
I mean, until we get the roof
he
version.
doesn't need he doesn't need a daily. He's currently dailying nothing. So the amount of use that it's going to, or mission that it needs to solve is
it's limited.
Is limited, exactly.
Okay.
A coolest car, I had a ST195 Celica, the one that had like the lights. It was just the coolest car.
It's like a homologated rally car.
Yeah. Super cool. Then I had then I weirdly had an MX-6.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love coupes. Like I absolutely love
Is this first or second generation? It's the one that looks a bit like a knockoff DB7 maybe if you squint?
Exactly that.
Yeah, okay.
Great lines. MX-5, I look wrong in it because I'm 6'2". And then I thought that, and then I sold myself on the rear seats because you can't really, and that was cool.
I think I saw one here with a private reg number that was XL Miata on an MX-6 or something like that, or maybe it was XL MX-5 or something
MX-5
like that.
+1.
Yeah,
it's such a great car.
They were available with 6 cylinders here, maybe even 3 valves per cylinder on the first gen. Actually, the first gen MX-6 was available with a 6 cylinder with 3 valves per cylinder, single overhead cam. I think not that anyone's counting or looking.
I don't think it was.
They were base were 4.
They were available both ways.
In Europe, we wouldn't have had that, and I wouldn't have. That was when I was at Tesla. Then I had family and kids, lived in London, and then I managed to, before we then kicked off Longbow, and then all of our money and time and effort went into not having nice cars. Had a Cayenne GTS, a V8. That was such a great car because
that's very American.
I got to pretend it was a family car.
Yes, right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then now we just have an estate actually because we drive back and forward to Europe a lot as a family. Mm-hmm. And then that's part of the reason we have to make Longbow a success is I then have to have one of these as my car
to get away from,
so I can then start having nice cars again, right?
Because when you say an estate, which estate? Because you're about to be judged very harshly by us and everyone, or we'll bleep it.
It's a 2018 E-Class 220 diesel.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're fans of diesel wagons.
It's bomb-proof, right? It's
Yeah.
rear-wheel drive, bomb-proof. I've got dogs and kids. They ruin it anyway. We had it like a week, and then they bang all the doors, and I'm just like, I have to just not do it. Like when I get in cars, they have to be clean, and I make them smell nice and polish them, and I hand it over to my lovely wife and my kids, and it's crime scene every time, every single time. So yeah,
It's valiant for continuing to try.
Yeah, and so that's, you know, we this will be then in the driveway, and I have then a valid excuse as a middle-aged man that it's not a midlife crisis to have a sports car that doesn't have a roof. It's
business.
It's your
my
business.
car.
I have to.
It's
It's
a
tested.
company car.
Advanced corporate testing. Okay, so you showed a bunch of slides in your presentation yesterday that included a bunch of variants of future products, and it was there's this, then there's the Roadster, then there was a coupe and a sort of off-roady sort of looking thing, and then at very last there was a hot hatch.
With denim interior available.
Okay, I didn't know.
Actually?
And a hammock? No. Derek's like,
We are going to
sounds
do
quite
we're going to do a demo
There was
edition.
there
Just
was
free will.
one made. Yeah.
I have a question. Why last?
Actually, that's the first time we showed it, and that was the reaction made us probably rethink that a little bit.
My reaction certainly would have made you, well, close the company and never talk to me again.
You kind of you kind of have your head in your heart. So what you want to do, what makes business sense? Hatch is from a price point, from a size, where we need to hit it. You know, price points of materials and volumes we need to get to make one that's not a ridiculous price that makes sense. As you know, we put this in.
Well, as long as it costs less than an FF or a GT4 Lusso, then you're not. It won't even be the most expensive hatchback ever made.
But I think for us, any car, we don't want it to be this thing that's only enjoyed by the very few.
Sure.
You know, and so if you do a hot hatch, it's kind of sacrilegious for a hot hatch to be like 150 grand, right, or 100 grand. It needs to be at the price where someone can aspire to, or be like, do you know what, I've done really well, or I've got this, or it's a retirement, or it's X, and they can buy one. And so that's frankly harder in that product, because we don't want to do a car that's this kind of gratuitous car for the elite, whereas something like a 2+2 actually is, as you said, from the price point here, we're slightly lower than or similar to one of those cars. So, you know, a 2+2, a coupe, that sits where a 911 would sit. It's where a DBS 2+2 would sit from price point, and that feels right. I think for a hatch, for us, my first car was a hot hatch, so it needs to be a car that's not this super elite thing that you mentioned a few of them earlier, right? That's not what Longbow is. That's not what we're about. Yeah, it's not our North Star.
Okay.
It feels like the answer to a question that lots of people are asking. I'm sure you hope also. But the philosophy of sort of accessibility and making proving that an EV need not be about maximum insulation for the occupants from the experience.
I should also say the design you showed is not exactly a Golf, right? It's very sexy. It's
a high
very
end,
curvaceous.
Yeah, it makes me
R32, right? If it was a car, if it was a Golf, it would be at that end of it, right?
But it's also sort of from the ILO looked low and elegant and really interesting. And my immediate thought was, okay, this is a toy, right? It's obviously without a roof. Roads, you know, the forthcoming cars are sort of less and less of toy and more, they can do transportation. The one thing I'm longing for personally more than anything else is a high style, great handling, lightweight, small, daily drivable car that's electric. And that just ticked every box. I would order this right now. If I knew it was rear drive, great dynamics and lightweight. And I wonder, and I saw the reaction in the room last night. There were a bunch of people who were like, I would totally have that as my daily, but I see your point, right? If it winds up being more expensive than something like this, it's not worth doing that to the brand.
But actually, I think from that reaction, if we can bring it there quicker and a way of making it hit that point, I think we wouldn't give on that price point. We wouldn't give on the where we want to hit from volumes, but anything we can do to get there quicker, that's why we have a platform. That's why it carries over. If we see that we can build that quicker, we will, you know, and almost it's you you kind of, and this is advice we had from some advisors as well, is, don't get distracted. So Speedster, we then do a Roadster, we then do if you have too many concurrent vehicle programs, you're doing too many things, and then all of a sudden,
you end up like Lotus in 2015.
For that one brief moment.
Yeah, where they had the new Esprit.
Right.
They introduced like 5 cars simultaneously at Paris, and none of them got built.
Yeah.
I mean, this is all off the same platform as well. So we're learning, we're developing, and once you get to that hot hatch, it needs to be a really well-developed car.
Yeah, and what
Right,
you
because
expect
people will ask more of it.
Exactly.
It's hard. The hardest thing. It was so much harder at Tesla when you had Model 3 customers than Model S customers, which was much harder than Roadster customers. So, because at that point, this is a car. This isn't. I mean, I hope that there are some people who've just bought this as their daily driver and they live with it every day because that's just the coolest thing you could do. But this is someone's second or third car, right? Maybe fourth or fifth car,
20th or right.
24. Just sits there and they never drive it, and it just appreciates. The Roadster, that probably could become someone's second car or daily driver. When you get to the hot hatch, that could be someone's only car, And so all of a sudden, if it's off the road for a day or a week, it's a problem. And if you're driving your kids to school with it, which you can't do in this unless you've got one kid and they've got a helmet on and you're in California, you take an Uber. But if that, you start materially impacting someone's life when you move into that space, and it's a big responsibility as a car company, right? You need to take it seriously.
We're not just building cars, right? At that point, we're building a transportation system that needs that support, that service. So there's a lot of stuff there to build out and make sure it's supported in the right way. But we do want these cars, especially Speedster and Roadster. Another thing that we really enjoyed growing up, especially with my story now about painting the fire extinguisher NOS bottle, like working on cars yourselves, that's something we really want to try and bring back as well. That maybe a father-son type thing that I had with my dad, being able to do something on the car is really interesting. So high voltage, leave that to the garage. But the rest of the car is meant to be as basic and simple and understandable by people as possible. And then we give you the manual, we give you the parts, and you can work on the cars.
Consistent with your early conversations with your customers about what they wanted, and I imagine that was a recurring theme, because just the accessibility and the opposite, experience that you have now if you have a modern car, when you go in for service and they're replacing various modules, and this one's $1,000 and that one, and you end up leaving with $10,000 for nothing. It's a reflection of the complexity that's part of modern cars that I'm sure most people would rather not have.
That's it. Right to repair. It's a real thing. Should be.
Do you have, can you give examples of things that you intended the car to have that customers said they would rather deal without? Not to put you on the spot, but I'm putting you on the spot.
There was a lot of talk around comfortable seats and wanting to stick, at least 3 sets of golf clubs. I don't know why. Someone said they wanted 3 sets of golf clubs.
In a car that seats 2 fucking people?
Exactly.
Oh, get a life.
So I was like, I don't think you're being honest with me here. Right. So we pared down on those things. Okay. But seating, I think, is a really important part. You mentioned how going from a carbon bucket seat, which is, I think, what, take an aerial atom or something similar to that. That's not what this car is. It needs to be livable. But again, things like screens. That was probably the main question I had from every single person, which is, please don't put a screen in it, or please keep things simple. I want easy to reach dials. I want things that I can
Physical
feel and
controls.
touch, and I want to be engaged with it. No capacitive stuff. Keep it simple.
It's so amazing having watched the industry embrace this capacitive shit that never worked better than any of the physical buttons, and seeing how long, if you want an indication, anyone wants an indication of how fucking dumb and slow the auto industry is. It's been 10 plus years of everyone bitching, not just the magazines, but customers in JD Power surveys and everything, hating all of this stuff. And it's a decade for them to say, now we will stop doing this and return to physical controls. And they do it with one little thing at a time. They're that slow. So
Have you been along and seen the new Ferrari? Have you touched the new Luce interior? No. What do you think?
Not yet. I mean, I think it's about time. I think I'm going to get myself in trouble here. Whoever made the decision to remove a big red... So when the first start button came out rather than a key, it was a little bit jarring. But the first time you get in a car and you press that start button, you realize it's fine. You get the drama and the theater of a start. Whoever decided to replace that with a capacitive button that doesn't exist until your finger's on it needs to be actually shot. And I'm not promoting violence here because that would be the wrong thing to do. But immediately.
In most cases, except for this one.
Yeah. I mean, I just, that shows a fundamental misunderstanding of what people buy a Ferrari for, which is the drama and the whole experience. And so everything that company can do to walk back those decisions, first of all, their capacitive stuff sucked. It didn't work well at all. No one's really is all that great. But theirs was extra terrible. But these cars have long lifespans, and what is in vogue now will not be acceptable, much less cool 20 years from now. So bravo that it took them an entire generation of cars to figure out what should have been obvious to us. But what I'm seeing in our world is you can have a screen, but that screen needs to be, this is sort of in the enthusiast world, that screen needs to be just infotainment, just CarPlay or Android Auto if your credit rating is below 300. It's waiting. I can't even keep a straight face saying that. It needs to be just your car and then maybe a menu with some advanced, tweaking functionality or something that you can do while you're stopped. But everything else needs to be physical control in sort of the enthusiast crowd that I'm with. And so there was a generation of cars where that was the case. Sort of Mark 7 Golf is always my benchmark, where everything was a physical control except for what you were listening to.
Yeah, or like changing daylight savings settings or something like that.
Right. I mean, it's easier than clicking through a menu on your steering wheel. So my question is, that interior you've said is not representative of what will come. Where's your balance of physical controls and displays and gauges versus screens?
I mean, we gave the design team a pretty hard time on this one, didn't we? Because we keep on saying we want sort of hyper supercar level of consideration in the car, but in this price point. So one of the cars that we really like the interior of, Bugatti Veyron, mainly because they've considered your point, right? These cars are going to be around for many, many years. So don't put something in there that's going to date and age very quickly. So we've got a lot of that tactile physical touch that goes in there. And then it's trying to represent lightness in the vehicle as well. It's actually quite difficult. So having sort of more of a skeletal side of it is going on.
Have you looked at the interior of the S1LM? Because I think they do that. That's one of the things, like you say, it's skeletal, sort of to emphasize how little material or how much material is missing, I guess, but trying to convey that in the deformed language of the materials inside. The S1LM interior does a good job of that.
Gotcha. Well, we wanted to, again, being inspired, I guess, by Lotus, having the chassis, so the actual kind of the bones of the car being visible. So when you're getting into it,
and it has holes in them.
Yeah, you don't want to be isolated from it. You want to be feeling part of the machine. That's what we're trying to do with all
threshold.
of this.
You cross the threshold and you're in. And it's getting that down to a symbiosis of archer and driver. You shouldn't feel that you're apart from it, right? You're not in the saddle. Well, you are in the saddle. I don't know if that's a good analogy or not. But you're in it. You're part of the car, right?
Like the Formula cars where you're there, you're crammed in and you can see all of the scaffolding around. You think, if I crash, this is what's going to be ending me. But just being like aware of what the car is, that's a thing that we've tried to put in there as well. So there's a lot to go in rather than just going, let's make a sports car interior.
Honestly,
and that's why we haven't revealed it yet.
Yeah, there's an authenticity to that where it's telling you how it works and how you're involved in that.
Do you know what else it is? Lighter.
Yep.
Right.
Right.
Like we don't have to just keep covering everything with bits of plastic.
Elise did that so well, possibly the best ever.
Yeah.
Series 2 Elise.
Yeah.
I think. Beautiful.
They were super smart with all the railings that they had coming along the dash, so you can have these, and it was part of the structure.
Simple extrusion.
Like the ashtray and the Panda that slides across the dashboard.
But we couldn't go that far because we're not a track car.
Right.
So you have to, because we are an on-road performance car and we are saying we're in the daily driver space, so you can't go that raw. So we're looking like the Elba. And if you look at that, and we talk about this high water line, so if you look at it, the exterior on the Elva ingresses all the way in, so you feel like you're riding in one of those like sea kayaks. That is a compliment from me. And we figured if we did that, that's not the right communication because it's not this raw. It's raw, but it's not a track car. So and we call it the high water mark. So how far does the exterior ingress on the interior? And so there's this a lot you can do, and we realized we kept getting flack, as Mark says, because we were saying, can we have it look a bit more like the P72, please? And we like this from the Avaya, and they're like, it's not a hypercar. And you're like, we're not saying that it needs to be machined bronze, that was manufactured on this one island in Corfu by a blind man. Like, it doesn't have to be that specific from materials and finish, but the thought that's given to it. Exactly. Because you can do that without spending $2,000 on it. You can do that for $20, right? And again, back to this, no one's built an electric sports car before. We have an opportunity to define what that interior layout is as a standard. Yes, it's
an interesting question to ask how much the exterior should come into the car, because you refer back to like cars from the 1950s, then you get the dashboard's always the same color as the exterior of the car, and there's some way to sort of present to unify the interior and exterior in a way that oftentimes, some car designs, you could look at the interior and exterior and it's wildly discordant. In other cars, it's very much a representation of what you get on the outside of the car. And giving that some consideration is a neat touch.
But it does have a shifter in there. There is something that sticks out right in the middle that is used rather than a dial or something else to change. Because again, like no one wants to press a button to go forwards or backwards or the shift on the side of the wheel. Like you want to feel like you're doing something and something mechanical is happening. So when we show the interior, I think you guys are going to look and go, that's the car they've been inspired by that it's going to be pretty on the nose with a few of the features in there, but we don't care because we know those things have been really iconic in those vehicles and we've reimagined them and put them into something that's electric now.
Cool.
We literally, with the shifter in this car, the engineering team were like dead set against it because they're like, no, it's not the most efficient way of shifting between gears. And we're like, that's
shut the fuck up.
So we literally bought it. I went online. We found this guy in Sweden who built this. We looked at because the functional safety side of it, but like a what's it called, like a racing, like a sim rig. And we looked, what's the coolest one of these? And I just ordered it, had it sent over, and messaged this guy in Sweden, sent it to the engineering team. And then the first message we got, it's got a really stiff action. And we were like, good.
Right.
It's meant to be like a bolt action. Yeah, you're meant to be. Yeah.
So when you change, like click, clack, click, clack, and then it just feels,
when you are engaging a gear in a car, even if you're not physically engaging anything, right? You're just commanding the computer to pull the parking pole and telling what direction to turn the motor. You are affecting a mechanical change that could kill someone.
Yeah.
And this is one of my problems with modern cars is that you could make it voice command. You can do whatever you want. But at the end of the day, if I don't fully know exactly what gear I'm in, that's a huge safety problem. And there are a lot of modern cars where it's a spinny wheel there are detents there, but you can't feel the difference between park and drive. It should absolutely be a very clear motion and a very clear engagement of a gear, right? To say, and now I know for sure that when I press that accelerator pedal, it's going to move forward or backwards. So I'm with you there. I mean, just because you can do something doesn't mean.
And this is why when it's just a small team and it's not a big group of executives and marketing team that all got these ideas that just blend into nothing, we can go, no, that's what it should be. Good. We believe that. Let's do it. A bit like Elon with the two rear seats in the back of the S, right? I've got 5 kids, so build it.
You're making it.
Yeah.
We had this conversation around theatre as well the other day, and we were like talking about what's the startup sequence to get, and you think what's the startup sequence in the coolest sports car or supercar, and then what's authentic for electric. And we got into this whole conversation around, well, look, when you're doing, there's a phase of electric vehicles you call it like contactors close. What you're doing there is you're effectively making a 50 kilowatt hour battery pack live that can go through a 400 or 300 kilowatt motor. That's like what powers, even in America, like let's say in America and Europe, it power your house for a week, but here it power your house for a day, right? The electricity that goes through your house in a day with loads of air conditioning, everything running through, going through something that's like 100 times the power of a microwave. And it's, so when someone's like, I got a V12, you're like, that's nothing. This power here will frag a street. How do you communicate that you now as a driver have the ability, you've got that power at your fingertips? Because I think electric vehicles disconnect you from what's happening. It's an an unbelievable amount of power you have, like potential energy into kinetic energy. You're this is live now. You're ready to go. And the Roadster used to communicate that. You put it down, you felt it. And I think cars have disconnected you from this. So you're like, oh, it's an electric vehicle. Like that is a certifiable weapon of mass destruction at your fingertips. Right. But because it's electric and it's beep dial, people on the screen, I'm just driving an iPad. You're like, iPads can't frag a street.
Right. And that's the problem with electricity is always that it's the silent killer, right? It's why it's so scary to be, I'm sure you've seen some of the Instagram reels of people getting zapped by power wires, right? I mean, electricity is was thought to be magic, right? It was, the stuff of the devil because it's silent, it's invisible, and it's unbelievably powerful. So you're right in calling that out. That's something that no electric car really does. If anything, it's a startup, sound effect that it plays. But you're right. The amount of power at your fingertips and energy is enormous. Energy,
we've tamed it, right?
Yeah.
When you tame an ICE, it's you're taming little explosions. We've tamed electricity, and we're now harnessing it. It's cool.
How do you show that off? Right?
Yeah, exactly. You should.
A McLaren, a GMA T50 certainly shows that off. If you've heard that startup sequence on a T50, it's fucking nuts. Have you heard one start in person yet?
I think so.
If they do,
It's a lot of starter.
It's a lot of starter. So it's the integrated motor, sort of the hybrid sort of motor that it has there. Spins it. I think it's 600 RPM. It's 450 or 600 something RPM. Spins the V12 for 6 seconds or something because it will not fire the engine until it has confirmed oil pressure. And so most people hear that starting and think it's the engine. It's just, and it's sitting there, and everyone's kind of looking around like, oh, it's a little bit, and then it just explodes off the line and everyone jumps. It's a hell of a startup sequence.
That's cool though.
And they made it. So this is typical Gordon Murray. He said, we really needed to spin this engine. The tolerances are so tight, we cannot run it for longevity, can't run it without confirmed oil pressure. So fuck it, make it make the starter motor a little louder than it would have otherwise and let it go. And I think that's to really find a way to replicate that in an EV, it would be a cool touch.
In an authentic way.
Authentically, exactly.
Yeah.
No UFO sounds.
No, can you do, so you're going to have fake shifts like a Hyundai Ioniq 5N.
What do you think of that? You've driven it?
I've driven it. It's, look, as a toy drifting around the track, it's a hell of a car. As a EV, it's a hell of a car. The way they did the way they programmed in the shifts is perfect, right? It's 100% replicates the force that you would feel on the car and on your body, including, slowing it down in gear. So you're in third gear at 2000 RPM and you floor it, there's nobody home, right? And then you get a downshift and it comes in. It's got the bucks. It's 100% natural. It's a wonderful gimmick that I would never use in the real world, ever. Even on a back road. It's silly. Right. I love that they did it so well. I think it's a 1 or 2 or 3 times trick that you'll just never use again. I tend to gravitate towards things that are authentic. So I want my EV to be authentically an EV. I want my,
CVT to take it to red line immediately.
And hold it
to
there.
Power peak and not.
No, but I mean, this is why all of my combustion cars are manual. They're all manual. I don't even have a single drive-by-wire. Yeah, not true. I have one drive-by-wire car, but everything else is, half of them have clutch cables. They don't even have clutch hydraulics in them. And I prefer it that way. I'd like to interact directly with the machinery and get the most pleasure of it that way. Not for daily driving. That's a different story. It becomes tiresome. Carburetors are a fucking pain in the ass. For example, clutches that are 75 pounds are a pain in the ass in traffic. But at the end of the day, it's more experience because what you're feeling is authentically what the car is doing. And
if you turn the noise off of that when you're driving it for the passenger, it's the most nauseating, vomit-inducing thing you can experience because you don't have that connection between what's the engine doing.
It was great.
When's the shift happening?
I was driving and he was in the passenger seat and he was just like...
Yeah, I'm speaking from experience, yeah.
I mean, we all know from being in EV, first of all, we've all been in Ubers and we know about the sort of binary 01, 01, 01 throttle application. But you put a sort of bad driver like that in an EV and you throw yourself in the backseat and you are instantly sick. You don't get car sick, do you?
Not usually.
But
if I were reading, I probably would.
But will you get car sick in EVs driven by? Yeah, I'm prone to car sickness, and I will be nauseated within seconds. And so there is actually a benefit to having the noise in an EV because it does tell your brain what to expect. So if you told me you put in some noise to enhance gear whine or some inverter noise or whatever just to signal to the passenger something's happening, I wouldn't yell at you because I think it's a benefit to the passenger.
Better still would be to actually hear it.
In the case of the Tesla Roadster.
Authentic theater.
Authentic theater, yeah. But that could also become tiresome. Although maybe you could hear it and then use the stereo speakers to cancel it out if you needed to.
Or just rip the roof off and let a load of wind.
But you're not going to hear anything in that thing, right?
But I think it's a good point. I remember back in like 2010 and one of the sales calls, Daniel from Tesla. Daniel, I drive a Ferrari 430 to work every day and my ears hurt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you're like, so I think there's a chance for we romanticize certain things around cars, serviceability perhaps, that isn't actually it's a bug, not a feature, right? So with an electric sports car, does it open up a different dimension that you haven't had before in the car, right? Do you focus more on it? It's like if you lose a sense, the others are more amplified.
Cute. Yeah.
So if you lose that sense, is your sense of touch and feel with one pedal driving with that torque, does that become enhanced? Are you really more dialed in? And I get, we're there to curate that, I guess, right? That's our responsibility now, right?
Curious to see.
Yeah, having the Roadster experience, I think, will be incredibly helpful. I find that car now, experiencing it like recently, as still it's an impressively direct, authentic, like communicative experience. There's just a lot to it. It's impressive that it's that was just sort of the result of the way they engineered the car. But you experience the car today, and you say this is remarkably, I feel remarkably close to what the car is doing in a way that is not typical for an EV.
It's just fun, isn't it? It's just a fun car to.
Yeah.
Would you choose a Tesla? Would any of us choose a Tesla Roadster over an Elise with a Honda K engine?
What am I going to do at the weekends without changing the head gaskets?
Right. Well, no, with a Honda K series.
Oh, okay.
So you don't have to do anything.
I think I would for romanticism, because it's where my journey started with electric vehicles, was with the Roadster. But probably not, because it's heavier, right? It's like
a lot of
300 kilograms with the same brakes.
Yeah.
Which I experienced.
We did a little thing where we took what we've got in even early prototype vehicles and said, okay, what if we put the batteries that we have today with the energy density that exists and the motor back into an original Tesla Roadster?
Ooh.
And it was quite interesting, right?
Be under a ton. Just our powertrain in an original Tesla Roadster would bring it under a ton.
Wow.
Huh.
Yeah, the batteries were heavy. The
Which
motor
is
was big.
that's 1,000 kilograms, so 2,200 pounds.
Yeah, so I think it shaves off like 200 kilograms, 250.
Yeah, so you'd be like 2,200 pounds instead of 2,000
The
pounds.
least weight.
Yeah.
Yeah, and lightweight means small brakes. I noticed them. They are vented, but they're fairly small.
They are much bigger than they need to be. So this is the other thing, right? When you're making a lightweight sports car, the brakes you actually need look like they're more for like a mountain bike or something like that, right? So you have to like pump these things up to even look like they're the right thing. But it's a virtuous circle. So,
yeah, especially when you have, if the battery can accept 100 kilowatts, that's more than enough to lock up the rear wheels probably. Anyway, you barely need the brakes in normal driving, or you won't need the brakes in normal driving and barely need them in spirited driving.
It's quite interesting. There's this, we've toyed around, there's all this tech coming in. We looked at hub motors and other bits. Theoretically, even with a rear wheel setup, you probably could not have brakes, right? So there's a functional safety level you need to cover off, and I think that's going to be hard. And there's a homologation level and certification, all that stuff you don't want to mess with. But Yasa Motors just showed a 1,000 horsepower motor that weighs 12 kilograms.
Oh my god!
Right?
So it's actually lighter than the normal brake package, wheel hub, and everything else that you'd have, and it's 1,000 horsepower.
It's an axle motor. Not an axle, per wheel. It's an in-wheel motor, and it's weight neutral.
It's like like inside it, it's the kind of the planetary gear system and everything else.
It means your braking force is 1,000 horsepower per wheel.
Meaning it could lock them up with an apartment building on it.
Exactly.
That's wild.
And that's now. So we think, so one of the problems is if you're vertically integrated, you commit to a tech. Mm-hmm. But the tech's evolving at such a pace that whatever you commit to is outdated the second you put it on the road. Whereas if you can be adaptable, it would not surprise me if in the next 10 years you can have a weight neutral or weight negative in-wheel motor in the wheels for each car that gives you so much more space. What drops all the weight, all your cost, all your heating and cooling becomes a lot easier, and can remove your brakes, right?
There is no reason for rear wheel brakes anymore on an EV with a big motor in the back. There's no reason for it other than redundant safety. But you absolutely don't need it. So there's a lot of stuff in cars that can go away once you start really thinking systemically.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people would disagree with this, but I really truly believe the future is going to be won by lightweight miniaturization because the way everything is going now, we talked about the Lucid motors the other day, like how small those things are now and energy and power dense they can be. And also that the ultimate future of electrification is going to be probably in-wheel motors. That is probably where it will all head. If we can already get to a point where you've got that much power for the same weight as an entire usual system or conventional system.
Brakes.
Like, exactly.
Of just the brakes.
And that's today. So another 10 years on from that, like why would you have inbound, all this extra weight? It's going to sit there and it will change everything, I'm pretty sure.
Same on packs. I mean, showed you yesterday. So in 2010, it was $1,500 per kilowatt hour at the, and that's at the cell level. Now it's $100 in 15 years. And the same thing has happened to motor pricing, and it's not stopping. You know, it's not going to get down to like $3 per kilowatt. Well, it probably won't get to $3 per kilowatt hour, but it's going to get lighter. It's going to get, and there's probably a battery equivalent Moore's law. So batteries will be cheaper and motors will be lighter and cheaper, even adjusted for inflation in the future. So you need to bet where's it going, not where are we, right? And I think there's an opportunity for everyone to do this. You know, there's nothing unique about us. Everything we're doing, everyone else could do. They could probably do it better because they're billion-dollar conglomerates with. You know, they spend,
but they can't.
They don't have the vision.
Well, and if they did, they don't have the freedom and flexibility to do it without some asshole board member saying, but it has to have a fragrance dispenser in the fucking glove box, right? I mean, this is
heated seatbelt.
That doesn't cost anything. I'm sorry, you guys gave me that right. That is one of those inventions that I think is almost Tesla-ian in its simplicity, right? Because it's just a bunch of heating elements in a seatbelt. But
we're literally going to go look at heated seatbelts as soon as this ends.
I'm sure they have a patent on it because it's Mercedes-Benz, but by all means go. But I mean, there are so many things that are built into these cars because some dickbag manager wants this car to be able to do everything for every use case and ultimately appeals to no one. And that's what I think is really special about your car and your company. You guys have a clear vision about what you want. And even when I push back on you on the fact that I want an EV hot hatch, you say no. And that's a good thing. It's genuinely, it's a good thing because it means you have a vision for what you want and you have customers who want that, or have identified people who are prospective customers who want that and are willing to stick to your guns on that. I think it's really important. Otherwise, it will be a gray blob-shaped SUV with a heated steering wheel and
seatbelts.
But we're going to do the Cammisa pack now for sure.
Yeah,
Maybe an option extra.
A lightweight. Yeah. Listen, I was in traffic the other day behind a Mercedes, a rear-wheel drive Mercedes, and we were on a probably 20-something% grade, really steep San Francisco hill, and it was raining. And they stopped on the paint stripe, and the car wouldn't move. And I've genuinely never seen this. The fucking thing just sat and spun tire and spun tire and spun tire. And they would just back up. It would just slide backwards down the hill while the wheels were spinning just enough to get on the pavement and then get on the paint stripe again and stop. The moron behind the wheel couldn't figure out, just back up 6 more feet and go. And I watched this whole thing unfold and I thought, this is why every car in America has to have 4-wheel drive. The stupid fuck behind the wheel who is driving on bald summer tires in 12 degrees centigrade rain is now going to drive straight to the Mercedes dealership and say, I need to have something with all-wheel drive, rather than I should have put real tires on my car or learned to back it up. And I'm on this grade, stopped in a front-wheel drive car, it was my e-Golf, which terrible weight distribution and all the other stuff. You don't want a tall, heavy car with front-wheel drive going to start out up a hill, and it just went. And I thought, this is the problem. It's an untrained driver situation who wants everything, who never wants to have to understand what's going on in their car, who will now go and spend $75,000, $80,000, $100,000 on a new product they don't need because they experienced something because of their own.
You're assuming they're smart enough to figure out what happened.
Well, they're not going to. They're just going to go and buy a new car. This car doesn't go in the rain.
It's broken.
Need a new car. Yeah,
this is the problem with EVs, right? Is with a lot of EVs is the horsepower you need in a car and the power you need in a car is not what you're getting. Like EVs massively blow that out. They weaponized it, right? So you could have a tiny little e-motor in there that gives you 150 horsepower, 200 horsepower that hits any functional case you need in a car. But because that car company did 0 to 60 in 5, and I've been in those meetings where you talk VA, VI adjustment on your feature sets and how you need to hit it to hit your margins across the vehicle products. And they'll be like, well, we can offer more horsepower, which means we can charge slightly more for the car.
Right.
And then it becomes this race. So it's like, you don't stop giving people who can't drive. And it never used to be the case, right? Like my Golf GTI Mark III with a 2-liter engine was a weapon back in the day.
115 horsepower.
Yeah. I got
Could barely move out of his own way.
Yeah,
But-
and that was a weapon. People were like, God, Golf, yeah. GTI, it's 8 valve. I wish I got 16 valve. We'll always regret that. But it's a weapon. And someone who's next to you with a 1.2, which is what everyone else had, with a manual, you're not struggling on the stripes, right? Because you have to learn how to drive.
You have to drive it. Yeah.
Whereas now, someone in that same car, they'll do 0 to 60 in like 5 seconds. And someone
That's
who's
a
just
slow
got their
car.
license, and
That's slow now.
that's a problem.
It's a problem.
But the world doesn't need bigger numbers anyway. I think it needs like this better experiences. And when you look at the tires on this, actually, a lot of comments the other day were, you should make those tires wider on the rear. It needs to look better. Like, we've specifically chosen tires of that width because we want the car to kind of move around, actually.
How wide are they?
Look on the super narrow like tail. We've got 245 55s on there.
That's not a narrow tire.
225 rear.
Compared for today.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah.
Is everything is 395s,
Yeah.
475. I'm making this up.
And when you look at it from the back, maybe you go, oh, it could look, you want it more 911, you want some more width on it. But no,
What
it's
about
going to
the
change
impact,
the way it
right?
drives.
Yeah. Right. Then you can't slide it. There's a reason why slow car fast is a thing. Right? It's fun to slide around. It's fun to have a car that walks around and wiggles around.
The most fun I ever
Semi-auto
had
philosophy.
was on a really underpowered sports bike where you had to take it all the way to the end of the rev range everywhere you went, and you were working those gears. And that was when, okay, I'm experiencing this. I'm riding now.
Yeah.
And then I
Required
went
to go
nearly killed myself
anywhere.
on 1000cc and never did that again.
So US legal, that's the intent for US homologation. And what volume targets? Do you have sales volume targets?
Speed is 150 units, limited run.
Globally, that's
So
all
we
we'll
do
ever make.
150 of those, and then they're gone, and we've sold most of them. Then Roadster, we're looking at around 5,000 a year on that, and then we add additional vehicle lines, and we probably keep Roadster where it is at 5,000. We don't want to. Our rule is kind of N over 2. So if people want 10,000 Roadsters, we'll sell 5,000. We won't max it out, and I think then having controlled customer base, the Ferrari model probably a bit more than others. And then we add additional vehicle lines. The
5,000 is not a small number. I mean, that's Ferrari up till a couple of years ago, right?
Yeah, at a quarter of the price.
Right.
But
That's chief point, right?
And that's it. So your volume, we picked that price because you're between $60,000 and
I
So
had
you're ready
the
for it, didn't
remote
you?
in my pocket because I knew that fucking light was going to do that.
between $60,000 and $200,000, around 250,000 sports cars a year are sold,
Oh my God.
and majority of them are not at the 200,000 range. So if you come in there, 5,000 is a high number, but there are no other electric sports cars. So if we can come in and take a fraction of that, right? It's a small percentage of that with our products as a brand and the price point with the desirability. Yeah, it's a huge success. We reach there, but that's our ambition. It's 13,000 cars a year by 2031 is our ambition, which is no small number. In automotive, it's tiny. In low volume, it's high. But it's the right spot.
Cool.
I wish you great success.
Yeah, me too. Happy as soon as you get a drivable car, we're happy to slide it around and do terrible things on camera with it. Just putting that out there because I have to. It's my job, and I'm a whore. But yeah, no. Wish you absolute best of luck. I think it's a really cool product, and I think you guys are set. You're in a position where you can set the standard for what the next generation sports car is.
Thanks. That's a lot of weight on our shoulders. Appreciate it.
Don't
Jason.
fuck it up.
Yeah.
Right.
But not a lot of weight on the car.
Oh God.
Yeah.
So on that note,
We'll conclude this here.
yeah, please, because Derek's not going to make a worse pun. Worse. I don't know.
Depends on your perspective. Okay, off we go.
Thank you guys for joining. Thanks for bringing it out. And I'll take mine in a hot hatch in brown with brown. Because
Brown on brown.
brown on brown. Oh, no. Denim.
Go with your
denim.
heated toilet
Brown
seat.
with, brown with denim. No, brown.
Oh,
Shit on the
what
outside.
a beauty.
Jeans
Yeah.
on the inside. It's,
Corduroy on the outside. Yeah.
oh, behave. Yeah, I'm in. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
It's just an inside-out person. Denim on the inside and brown on the outside.
Oh, I thought we were done afterwards. We should probably also say, send people to your website and tell
Oh,
them.
yeah, of
okay,
course.
sorry. Now we'll really end it after. Okay. Tell them where to find you and how to give us our commission.
Longbowmotors.com.
Not .co.uk.
where we're
It's so international.
Exactly.
Global company.
That's the plan. So, yeah, go there. You can see all about the technology that we've talked about. You can play around the configurator where you can choose your 2 different colors. No denim, no corduroy just yet.
Not yet.
And
you
place your
made the
reservation.
models so that I can change
That's
the color scheme. Very cool. Okay.
Yeah, see you
Go to the
then.
website. Check them out.